No, it's too damn dangerous. It's hundreds of miles across rough terrain, rickety bridges, stormy weather. No, you got a bomb on the back seat. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I'll tell you why I can't do it. I can't drive. I haven't got a driving license. And I've been drinking. Hey folks, how are you all? Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man, at your services. How are you? I hope you're all doing very, very well. Cheers. It's not whiskey, it's not firewater, but it'll do for now. Back in 1977, director William Friedkin, American auteur, 70s wunderkind of American superstar cinema, French Connection, The Exorcist, embarked on something new, something a bit different for his style, something radically out of his comfort zone. Yes, he was going to make another movie. But this one, it's going to be different. This one would be challenging. This would be his own Fitzcarraldo, his own Agia, Wrath of God. This would be a challenge for any filmmaker. Against the elements, against hostile crews, with two production companies, Universal and 20th Century Fox, both vying for full property rights over it all. And an epic saga of man's dark heart, probing the odysseys of excess and obsession, and greed and lust and violence. Yes, this wasn't going to be the Muppet Show. Oh, no. This was a film called Sorcerer, and he made it. It took 2 years in the making, and it came out in 1977. The same year that Star Wars came out. Now, you could always argue that Star Wars was going to dwarf anything that came out that year, and it pretty much did. But the much maligned Sorcerer from William Friedkin became one of those sort of monumental movies. Oh, this is what could have destroyed the studio. This took down a great American cinematic name in filmmaking. Well, it didn't. The film came out and did disastrously. It tanked big time. It was a catastrophe in financial terms. Critics, some liked it, a lot didn't like it at all. But no one, audience-wise, bothered to go and see it. Over 40 years later, the film now has a hell of a cult following, and a lot of critics, label it as a masterpiece. A piece of cinema, royalty now. Because people seem to love these things. No one liked it when it first came out, but now, I always thought it was a masterpiece, but now it's getting the recognition that I always said it should. Well, I saw it a long time ago, and I thought it was great. However, I do think the film, it's not a remake. I was about to foolishly say the film that it's based on. Well, Georges Arnaud wrote a classic story called The Wages of Fear, about 4 men driving 2 trucks full of nitroglycerin across, in the book and in the original film, 300 miles around a mountain to get to an oil field where it's blown, and it's blowing off like a huge 200-foot tall plume of fire, which is never going to burn out. So you've got to cap it. You have to blow the whole thing up to seal it down again. So only men with a death wish, desperate men, are going to undertake this mission, because nitroglycerin, very unstable, and the terrain they're going across, exceptionally unstable. So one bounce, one jolt, one jerk, one halt, one incline, a rickety bridge, a rainstorm, boom. So that was the essence of the story. Henri-George Clouzot made the film in 1953, black and white, with Yves Montand playing the main role, and it's an epic movie. It is here, The Wages of Fear, an absolute classic, and black and white, stark, visceral. The first hour is build-up of these characters, these 4 disenfranchised men who've wound up, you don't find out how, in this hellhole cesspit of poverty and corrupt governments in the middle of South America. And American imperialism, colonialism, big commerce is round the corner, and their greed for these oil fields and their complete lack of interest in people's lives breeds contempt, an absolute anarchy in this place. But these guys want a way out of there, and this is the way out. They'll be paid a lot to transport this nitro across this hellish landscape. And that film, folks, the first hour, you get to know these guys, and then for another almost 90 minutes, it's a long movie, you have this incredibly inexorable, non-stop, relentless, absolute hair trigger, white-knuckle ride, sometimes going fast, sometimes going excruciatingly slowly, across hairpin turns, inclines, mudslides, a hellish boulder in the way, and rickety bridges. And it's fantastic. And of course, not everyone is going to make that journey in one piece. So, that was Wages of Fear, hailed as a classic. Again, it kind of got vilified by some people because it was very anti-American, or rather, it was deemed to be that way. Like, wherever there's oil, Americans are far behind. And not really. That's not really a scandal, is it? That is definitely a truism. So Friedkin, he's not remaking Clouzot's film, he's doing his own adaptation of that book, and it's fabulous. It's not as long as the original movie, it's just a 2-hour movie, but again he spends the entire first hour setting up what's going to be this relentless, ride through hell, because that's what this is. The whole theme of the movie is that these 4 guys, and I was going to say remake again. God, Kilt-Man, have a swig of alcohol for God's sake. Cool your jets. The 4 guys in this, headed up by Roy Scheider, Brody from Jaws, and you've got these 4 disparate fellas have ended up in this cesspit. Again, South American. I forget the name of the place, but it's all filmed in the Dominican Republic. Because Friedkin had an associate who said, look, I own the Dominican Republic, just film there. It's got jungles, it's got mountains, it's got rivers, it's got everything you need. Anarchy, poverty and violence, yes, it's all there. So they decamped and they filmed against all the odds. And it does look amazing, obviously. But, so you've got these 4 guys. Scheider plays a New York driver. His gang of robbers have took a haul from the mob, and the mob is after them, but they've crashed the car during their getaway, and only Scheider manages to get away from it. But he knows the mob's after him now, so where's he going to go? His friend gives him a fake passport. He ends up in this little piss pot of a town, working for the man, the big American governed commerce, the machinery. You've got, what's his name? See, I don't know his name. Bruno Kremer plays Sorcerer, who is a French big businessman, but he's also an embezzler. And the longest chunk by far of the introductions to the 4 characters is his. And he's not a bad guy, from what I can gather, loves his wife, but he has embezzled money, he's been caught, and they've only given him, right, look, you've got 24 hours to get this money back to us. So he calls in all his debts, but no one's playing ball. The one guy that can help him ends up blowing his own brains out. So Kremer, or Serrano, runs as well, and he will end up there. You've got an Arab terrorist who, along with his 3 cohorts, leaves a bomb on the streets, kaboom, in Jerusalem. But his cohorts are caught and killed. He does a runner, so he ends up there as well. And you've got this Mexican Spanish hitman as well, called Nilo, I think his name is. Francisco Rabal plays Nilo, and he's perhaps the most unlikable of all these people. Terrorist as well, because this guy is a cold-hearted hitman. And when it comes to the fact that, right, when this oil field, this platform, boom, goes up in a hellish tour de force of ferocious action, literally bodies are flying everywhere. Friedkin spares no expense on this. The whole thing goes up into this big, absolute hellish inferno. People are flambéed and barbecued. We see the remains of bodies getting brought back in soggy plastic bags. Oh God, it's horrific. So then, these guys have to undertake this mission to transport nitroglycerin in the backs of these two juggernaut trucks across this completely blighted Mad Max style wasteland, and it is visceral tour de force. But Nilo, this hitman, he's not meant to be doing it, and he actually kills the poor German guy who was going to do it. So he's now killed two people, so we don't like him at all. Roy Scheider's character, as he actually says, because people were hurt in the heist they committed, and his associate who gives him the passport says to people were hurt in that, they're not going to sit down and just take that lightly. They're going to come after you. They're going to go after you until hell freezes over. And he goes, I know, but I never use a gun. Everyone knows that. Doesn't matter. They're coming after you. So he's not as bad. And the terrorist, well, yeah, he's quite clearly, got a few issues. But the German, he was going to ride in a cab with him, and then finds out his throat's been cut, and this Mexican, Spanish hitman's done it. So he's enraged. He clearly has, an affection for this other guy, and so he actually has some redeeming qualities. And this is the thing. These four guys have ended up in this complete purgatory, is what the town is. It is purgatory. They've got no hope. There's violence on the streets, there's corruption everywhere, they're working on this hellish job, and this is their one way out. But even then, it's not given directly to them. No, they have to pass a test, they have to prove they can drive these trucks slowly and, or at speed, but without, tilting over these boxes. And you have a little glass of water, a little bottle of water on the dashboard, so watching how that tilts and turns, so some don't make it. But these four get the job. And you get this great montage. Before montages in films became all the rage, you actually see them, they go around all these old massive trucks, these monster trucks they are. And nah, that's not going to work, They need two trucks. So two teams, two trucks, two men in each one, and all these boxes full of nitro in the back on a bed of sand. But they have to customize and, put together these trucks out of all the bits that are there. So you have this great montage of them, and it's the guys themselves who are doing it. They don't enlist anyone else. It's almost like, look, you guys are the Devil's Brigade. Nobody wants nothing to do with you now. That's it. You've agreed to this. They're going to get paid a lot of money. In the original movie, they get handpicked because, well, no one's going to help them because, look, we just need people. There's no families, there's no relatives. If they get killed, which we know they're going to, there's no comeback. Don't worry about it. The original film, Wages of Fear, is a lot more nihilistic in many ways. It's a lot more brutal. It's very anti-colonialism. It's very anti-commerce, big business. Hates all that. Friedkin's film doesn't really hit out. It doesn't lash out so much at American foreign policies, but it does evoke that hellish sort of atmosphere of a country in complete financial chaos and political tyranny. So you've got posters of the El Presidente, and they're throwing stones at it. When the truck's full of, because they have to have soldiers protecting, the workers there and all this, because no one likes the man working for the man. But when they ferry back the bodies of the ones who are blown up in this huge accident, the mob turn on them because of their vicious ways. They're trying to claw people off the trucks and just throw the bodies out to them. So in the end, the townsfolk turn on them, haul them off the trucks and beat them all to death. And you're like, oh my God. So Friedkin's film, from a political standpoint, seems to be, look, we're more against the despotic, sort of junta that is in control of this ramshackle country. That's where his political standpoint lies, whereas Wages of Fear under Clouzot is very, not Inspector Clouseau, that'd be a different film altogether, but it's very anti-American from its stance. But the standpoint remains four guys who you don't like. They are not likeable chaps, let's be honest. But they will have to form a bond to get themselves through this treacherous ordeal. And it is one hell of a trip. Once those trucks fire up, the lights come on, and it's shot at night time, and the lights come on, boom, boom, boom. And then the cab top lights, it looks almost satanic. Why is the film called Sorcerer? Well, The original film is Wages of Fear, after the name of the book. And it's quite obvious. The whole thing is about a journey into, you know, the heart of terror, the heart of darkness. How do you survive fear when you don't conquer fear stays with you every step of the way, because every obstacle you overcome, there's another one round the bend which is just going to be even worse. So you can't ever get on top of that fear. Fear is what drives you, literally in this case. But Friedkin's film, the element is still there of this, you know, you're dealing with purgatory and fate. These guys have tried to escape something and ended up there to hide themselves away. But that's just as bad. So there's a chance to make money and get out of here. Maybe go somewhere better, somewhere we can hide, somewhere, just an escape. But very much like Joe Carnahan's film The Grey, Liam Neeson, the great, you know, awesome wolf survival movie. These guys can't escape fate. Fate is watching over them. That's how they've ended up there. That's how this journey, they're not all going to survive it, if any, to be honest. So that title, Sorcerer, it's like fate is a sorcerer who's bewitched these men, no matter which way you go, no matter what direction you take. And the whole film is about them making choices, making that option, that route. Do we go up? Do we go down? Do we go around? Do we go through? That road or that road, doesn't matter. As the film will prove, it doesn't matter which way you go, there's something waiting for you at the other side. Fate. So you start off in purgatory, most of your journey is with fate, and you end up in hell. That's what happens. The opening shot of Sorcerer is of a very Pazuzu from The Exorcist, like a stone carving on the side of one of the trucks, which is called Sorcerer. So there you go again, you have a truck which is named Sorcerer. I think the other one's called Lazaro. And there's actually an emblem of a demon on that. So a lot of people, Mark Kermode, who is, you know, William Friedkin's, you know, most slavish, you know, adoring poster boy, he has said that people didn't like it when it came out because it wasn't The Exorcist. With a title like Sorcerer, they're expecting, you know, something fantastical and supernatural. Were they? You know, you must have seen trailers for it. You know, I don't quite buy that. You know, you're not going to go into a film where the poster is a truck on a rope bridge, a suspended rope bridge in a ferocious rainstorm above a raging river, and it's tilted on an almost, you know, angle like this, you know, and think, that's another demon there again. No, but his film does start off with a very Pazuzu-like sort of carved effigy. So you're thinking, oh, he is paying some sort of homage there. But that's the idea, isn't it? Purgatory, fate, and hell. That's what these guys have been through all that, and they've only got the abyss to look forward to. The suspense is riveting. His film, Friedkin's film, hinges spectacularly and specifically on this suspended rope bridge. First, Roy Scheider's truck is going to go across that. The rains are coming down. The river is, you know, it's quite relentless and surging beneath them. Cinematography is fantastic. All the struts are giving way, the ropes are giving way. They barely make it across, and that is, you know, white-knuckle enough. But what's his name? Serrano, the French guy, who you don't mind. He's the guy who embezzled the company. But he's run out on his wife as well because he has nowhere else to turn. But to the big American boss who's hired them all, he gives him a letter because he knows, look, I might not come back from this. Send this to my wife, and the address, there it is, you take that. And this guy's like, yeah, don't worry, I'll take care of it. So you know he's got a bit of a heart and a bit of repentance for what he's done. But they're going to make the journey across next, and he's with the Arab terrorist, and the storm's picked up even more. The river has risen even further. The bridge is more damaged and it's swinging even more. Oh my God, they have to use the winch to try and haul themselves across. The truck is going from side to side like this, and you're like, oh my God. And it is slow and inexorable, and you are literally on the edge of your seat the whole time. It's tremendous. In the original movie, Wages of Fear, they encountered a huge boulder in the middle of the road. They can't go around it, but they use the nitro to blow it apart. In Friedkin's film, it's not a boulder, it's a massive, massive tree. You know, as wide as 3 or 4 kilt mansions piled on top of each other, and it's gone right the way across the street. In a tour de force bravura sequence, Roy Scheider just goes completely ape, and with his machete starts hacking through the trees either side. We can go around it. But they're like, can't go around that. But the Arab, who is obviously he makes bombs, he realises we can blow this apart. So in a great sequence again, they rig up this contraption of weights and counterbalances, a bag of sand, puncture the sand, you know, and it release, catch, fly back, drop a boulder, boom, and you get one hell of an explosion which blows a hole in this huge, you know, primordial tree big enough to get the trucks through. And it's fantastic. I won't say how the film ends, but other mishaps will befall these people. These valiant bastards is what they are. You know, these are, you know, a hateful four, you could call them. There's 1 or 2 redeeming features amongst them, and it's telling that one of the most tragic sequences is also one of the most abrupt, and it's a moment of bonding between one of the teams, and you know, a picture is shown, a memory is shared, and then fate just steps in the very next second, just when you've seen a couple of smiles, and you're like, oh, but that's the point of it. That's fate does that. You can't plan for it. Doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, what preparations, what safety precautions you've taken. Doesn't matter. You could be the fittest, strongest person on the planet, but you can walk out on the street, bus can hit you, and you're wiped out completely. And that's the whole point of the movie, is that fate, it's got its plan for you. Doesn't matter what you do. You can't circumnavigate fate forever. It will be lying in wait for you. And it's brilliant. The music, which you can hear now, is by Tangerine Dream. In a 2-hour movie, Friedkin only uses snippets of that score, but when he does, like that initial light up and revving up of the engines of the Sorcerer, that truck, it's great. And in certain, you know, helicopter swooping shots across these mountainous roads and ravines, and these hellish little thin little roadways on the side of a sheer cliff, and it's crumbling away on one side, and they're leaning out and watching, looking down this perilous perpendicular drop, you know. But Tangerine Dream's music covers elements like this, but it's only moments of it. I'm playing the soundtrack now, and we're talking 118 minutes of music. That's as long as the film itself, and yet he only uses the merest snippets of music. To great effect. But The Wages of Fear by Jean-Henri Clouzot is a better film. You only have an hour of the stuff before they get in the trucks and begin this odyssey. So you've got an hour and a half of them. A lot more happens. There's a hell of a lot more. More disasters, more tension. So by the end of it, well, by the moment when whoever is going to get to the end, you really feel worn out, exhausted. Absolutely, your nerves have been shredded. Sorcerer definitely has elements of that, but you just wish, I personally wish it went on for a bit longer and gave you more of these obstacles. It hinges on the suspension bridge, and then a couple of moments which you just don't see coming and don't expect, and they work great. It is fabulously done. And the finale has a poetically bleak and yet wistful, bittersweet conclusion, and it works because, you know, your fate, your doom has been sealed long before they even arrived in that little piss pot of a country. It was all fate's just letting them play out. Go on, do your little thing. I'll give you some false hope, but I'm still waiting for you at the end of the day. But it is a wonderful, wonderful movie. So Mark Kermode always says that, well, people expected a supernatural film, that's why they didn't bother. No one went to see it. Well, Sorcerer was not competing with Star Wars. Nothing was competing with Star Wars. Only if you put, like, say, Battle Beyond the Stars or Superman alongside Star Wars. Then you've got a conflict. Then you've got they are vying because they're similar genres. The Sorcerer was not that at all, and I don't think people can completely ignore the fact that a film quite clearly isn't about the supernatural when it's about trucks carrying nitroglycerin across, a rugged landscape in South America. I just don't think that was the issue. People just went to see Star Wars and they just weren't interested. They just weren't interested in a bleak, violent, despotic movie which shows man's basic instincts with no channel for valor, for glory, and for the greater good. It's not a noble film. We are not looking at noble characters. We're looking at bastards, has-beens, ne'er-do-wells. But that said, you've got to root for them as they begin to bond and scale each successive disaster. You've got to come on. You've got to make this. You've got to make this. Don't want you to get a lot of money and to settle down in happiness for the rest of your life. This isn't repentance, but you still want to see who's going to get to the end. It's the journey more than the actual conclusion, It's a wonderful hypnotic score. It's brilliant. Pure synth, of course. Scheider is magnificent in it. There are moments when he looks like an enraged Brody. Like when he takes off on Mayor Vaughn, when he takes off on Quint, that's just great. The radio's been smashed up and all that on the Orca. And he's wearing a similar shirt as well. And he's got that. Roy Scheider has that shark-like face anyway. Those eyes and that nose and the way his face sort of turns on an angle. He has that blunt sort of great white visage. And he's a lovable guy. But not in this. He's the most hero-like out of them, but he's still not a hero by any stretch. But when you see him kick off, it's a real, bravura sequence, and he has that a lot in this as well. It's a huge intensity. So, Sorcerer and The Wages of Fear. I've got to recommend them both. Wages of Fear is by far the better movie. Sorcerer is incredible at the same time. And I want to show you something here. The Roy Scheider character in The Wages of Fear is played by French actor Yves Montand. Now, here's a picture in a similar sequence to where Roy Scheider kicks off big time with a machete. Look at that. That's Yves Montand. I'll show you again. Doesn't that look just like Roy Scheider? Weird, isn't it? So, alongside the likes of Midnight Express, Sorcerer sits very well alongside that with cinematography, its mood, its style, its bleakness. It's looking at human nature through a very unflinching eye. And there is no sort of happy dissolve. There's no cutaway to a sweet moment. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, it's relentlessly bleak. There's no likable people in it. The moments of charity will be swiftly snuffed out, and yet you're still along for the ride. As I say, I wish Sorcerer was a longer film, a bit more of the road journey, but what you get is still riveting. And that first hour is hugely unsettling. You just don't know, you can't trust anybody, least of all our four guys, who are only kind of drawn together because of this mission that they undertake. But yeah, there you go, folks. There's two films for you. The same story told in different ways, but well recommended. Kilt-Man, double thumbs up. Folks, I have been and always shall be Kilt-Man. So please, should you choose to undertake a mission carrying a bomb on your backside, drive carefully. Keep it kilted, keep it Celtic, and I'm going to see you all gold, Texas tea.